Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's my annual Australia Day address, the one time I will sit down in front of a camera and put a few thoughts into the ether. So far this year, 2020, we've seen nothing but a country burning and politicians doing sweet fuck all, which is what we've come to expect from our political so-called leaders. It's not a marketing exercise, it's not a photo op. When you lead a country, you lead by an example. You don't fuck off to Hawaii just because you promised your kids you'd give them a trip to Hawaii. For the third time in a year, you take a holiday when you've worked no more than 14 days or whatever it is. We expect our political leaders to lead, not simply buzz around with the media and take pictures. We don't expect insults to the citizenry from our leaders, which is what we saw Morrison do in Southeast Australia. I would like to give you a taste of what we're really up against with this conservative circus that we're stuck with at the moment. My local MP, the federal MP, the member for Bowman, the Right Honourable Andrew Laming MP, messaged me last week. God knows why, he knows I hate his guts. But he messaged me last week, would you like to go for a cup of coffee? I thought it was a group broadcast across Facebook Messenger, so I just replied with one word, pass. Apparently it wasn't, because 20 minutes later he came back and said to me, I have no opposition in Redlands. At least you have some fight in you. Please reconsider. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? This is addressed to me. So I basically said to Laming, look, I don't like your politics, I don't follow your ideology, you'd be wasting your time and mine. I'm a busy man, I work 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and the 2 days I get off are all for me. So I'm not likely to spend any time with somebody that I don't like, don't follow, and you save yourself a cup of coffee, basically. Half an hour later, he's back again. Oh, I would value your opinions. Please reconsider. So I gave him a stack of opinions. A lot of what I told him in my reply, which was long and pointed, won't apply to anybody watching this, because unless you live in the Redlands, unless you live in the federal seat of Bowman, you wouldn't understand anyway. But suffice to say, I gave him a serve. A polite, pointed serve. I don't engage politicians and call them names, that's futile. They're immune to it anyway. But I will engage this particular individual on issues of policy. Whether he bans me from his Facebook page or not, I can still have my say. And today, I'm going to have my say. Laming sent me a chat piece, that's what he called it. It's an op-ed, something that would get posted to a conservative website, like Online Opinion or something like that. It deals with, peripherally, it deals with climate change. Now, I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to pass a few comments along the way. Laming is a climate change denier, nothing surer. Whether he's on the extreme right of the LNP or not, I don't know. Don't care. They're all basically a bunch of dinosaur fuckwits anyway. But I'll read it to you, just so that you get a taste of what these idiots are really all about. So here we go. After a decade of climate civil war and political hot air, Australia must transform its obsession with climate change into a national spirit and unified approach based on local and individual action. Local and individual action. In other words, the feds shouldn't really have anything to do with actioning on climate change. Those most obsessed with climate are wealthier, more educated, and more secure. I think the more educated part is more important there. These post-materialists live in cities, city centres to be precise. No attribution whatsoever. There's no data to back this bullshit up, but anyway, I'll keep going. The Australian Bureau of Statistics has innocently stumbled upon this deepening geopolitical divide. Really? Where's the stats? All our largest cities all share an average 15-kilometre commute, with that radius containing the increasingly twittered, it's not a word, but you know, twittered climate activism. Actually, from where I live, I used to commute into Brisbane City all the time. It's 25 k's. And there's a shitload of people that do a little bit more. So anyway, apparently the ABS has innocently stumbled upon this divide. Outside of this 15-kilometre commute is the old Australia. Not so affluent, white collar or sophisticated. It is the long commutes or no job at all, where healthcare and schools aren't what they could be. We are seeing a gentler version of the US. What a load of shit. Their blue-red geographical division is a blues-green equivalent here. Now, hang on, just let's back up a minute. I understand the Greens bit, because Conservatives hate the Greens. But who's the blue? I don't know. Can you suss it? Fucked if I can. I'll carry on. It gets better. This cleavage deepened further in 2018 when reformed Facebook algorithms limited newsfeed offerings to those who have liked, commented or shared us previously. I don't know who the us is. I guess considering that this is Andrew Lemming that wrote this, he's obviously writing it for his choir. The result is two Australias, as separated online as they are on the map. Okay. Last weekend, climate rallies forged ahead despite delay requests from our fire-exhausted emergency services. We're not on fire here in Brisbane, okay? Just want to tell you that. Don't think Sydney's in a blaze condition either, neither is Melbourne. It's all happening outside of the general major cities because that's where the bush is. Protesters consumed emergency resources while waving placards demanding more. More what? For the rest of Australia, it was just another march on the telly. Plenty of hatred and a new religion. Honestly, you can't make this stuff up. Outer Australia is guilty of a far more heinous crime. They elected that current Prime Minister who, for the elites, isn't theirs. Got that right. What rankles in a metro was not the comprehensiveness of the May 19 election, sorry, the May 19 rejection, but the silent ambush. No rallies, lock-ons or superglue required. Protests that follow now are all part of the therapy and another chance to take pointless action. Against what in particular? Against Morrison and his crew? Or against climate change? Don't know. This stuff would go well with a scoop of ice cream on top and some maple syrup dribbled over it. Waffle. Our nation understands climate is a massive global issue. Well, clearly we don't. We just fucking don't. But the challenge is global politics, not the science. No, dickhead, it's the science. Of the large economies, China, the US, India and Russia give lip service. Japan and Canada share our targets. Yet for two dishonest reasons, we are profiled as a pariah. It's because we're trying to double dip the books. First, emissions are calculated on production, not consumption. Yeah, that's fair. So ore, oil and food exporters like Australia and Saudi Arabia will always rank higher than European nations living off pipelines from Russia and nuclear power from across a border. Ice cream and maple syrup, yeah. Second, our high proportion of trade-exposed activity means nations like Brazil capitalise whenever we take unilateral action. Well, we've never taken unilateral action. Europe isn't affected in the same way. I have no fucking idea what this idiot is talking about. He must have been drunk when he wrote this. There are no attributions to any of the statements made, no statistics provided. It's just ice cream and maple syrup. But it goes on. Taken together, haters liken Australia's actions to nations that aren't like Australia. Right. Even if we have been emission-free for the last decade, which we fucking haven't, our bushfire season would be precisely the same. No, it fucking wouldn't. Climatists, which is not a word, regularly traduce big polluters, invariably large corporations they deem aren't paying sufficient tax, which we know damn well they're not. However, companies are merely providers to the real polluters. You and me. This is where it really gets interesting. So the people that make the shit that we buy are not polluters. We're the polluters because we use the shit that they make. Right. If we stop buying their stuff and purchase renewable alternatives, those prices fall and the transition happens automatically. No, it doesn't happen automatically, Andy. The transition will occur. The price of photovoltaic cells has fallen dramatically because of the big take-up. But without government support, without government leadership, without government pissing the coal industry off, without government stopping subsidies to fossil fuel industries, it ain't going to happen at all. He goes on. That makes every one of us culpable, including the protesters who feel their future is close to extinction. Well, it friggin' well is, mate. It's not going to happen in my lifetime, won't happen in my children's lifetime, won't happen in the lifetime of those any time before, let's say, 2090. But in the generations that come after that, in the generations that come after 2100, and this is just me plucking figures out of the air, but I figure it's going to take another 80 years before most of humanity wakes the fuck up and realises that something should have been done 80 years ago. We all participate in device charging, combustion-based transport and globe-trotting. Well, some of us do. Some of us jump on aeroplanes at the taxpayer's expense, fly out to Uluru and go for one last walk on the rock. Isn't that right, Andy? You didn't fucking walk out there, mate. You jumped on a jet, taxpayer funded. We know. Protesters Uber Eat motorbike delivered plastic containers. Live in climate control. Well, that's where I am right at the moment. I'm in my little air-conditioned sanctuary because it's too fucking hot out there. And fuel consumerism they cutely oppose. Hello, Andrew. Who's the guy driving around in the Porsche? Hello. That is why arresting the climate conundrum starts and ends at home. Oh, here we go, motherhood stuff. The right to lecture others is a privilege earned by being a non-emitter yourself. Now, this follows along the refugee line, you know. Oh, you're a bleeding heart. Are you going to provide a bed for an asylum seeker? I'll bet you're not. Because until you do provide a bed for an asylum seeker, you're a fucking hypocrite. It's the same argument. You can only earn the right to lecture others by being a non-emitter yourself, off-grid, no combustion transport, all raw food, and with batteries at home and work. Activists are hypocrites if they delay action until someone else pays for it. Well, that's what we're exhorting you to do. Show some fucking leadership and do something. You're the government, you're the leaders. We're just the idiots that keep electing you. Mind you, I don't, but some of you out there probably have. Extinction activism simply stokes division and a political zero-sum game, whereas many Australians are repulsed as impressed. It has been that way since Kevin Rudd's moralisation that it was beyond politics, before promptly placing it at the heart of party politics. He destroyed the chance of any respectful dialogue back in 2007. Now, let's just cast our minds back. 2007, the Rudd government got elected overwhelmingly. We wanted change. We wanted Howard gone. We wanted change. And we got change. We got a government that apologised to the Indigenous people on behalf of the Parliament, which I was okay with. I wasn't okay with Kevin Rudd saying, oh, sorry, all of we Australians say sorry. Well, I've got nothing personally to be sorry for. Yes, history is nasty. History is unfortunate that it records so many terrible things that have happened to the Indigenous peoples over the years since the invasion. And it was an invasion, let's be brutal. In 2007, we got a man who, with an ego, and let's not gild the lily, Kevin Rudd was one enormous seething ego. Still is. But he did things. He put the climate at the top of the list for his government's priorities. It didn't last because there are personalities within Labor, just like there are personalities inside the Conservatives, that want to ride the horse, that want to drive the bus. Julia Gillard wanted to drive the bus. Labor in general hated Kevin Rudd, still does hate Kevin Rudd, and always will hate Kevin Rudd, because he is not of the party. He is not of either of the factions, and they don't like that. You're either with us or against us. And as far as the party machine was concerned, he was against them. So don't be fed by this bullshit about Kevin Rudd. I mean, this is really grasping at straws. The man put climate change at the top of his government's agenda. A price on carbon, call it a tax, call it whatever you want, it's the same at the end of the day. A price on carbon was put in place. Over the 6 years that government was in place, our emissions fell. The only people that turned the issue into a party political bun fight was Abbott and his mob, particularly from 2010 onwards. Didn't Abbott do everything he possibly could to destroy the carbon price? Didn't he swear on a stack of mouldy old Bibles that that's what he was going to do? Well, he did. And he did. So don't swallow this bullshit that it's got anything to do with Kevin Rudd. It hasn't got anything to do with Kevin Rudd. It's got to do with a rudderless government, which it's been since 2013, and an unwillingness to accept science. They're dinosaurs. They don't want to know anything about the science. They can't comprehend the science. They're being fed and supported by a fossil fuel industry or more, one or more, either the coal industry or the oil research mobs or the Minerals Council of Australia, probably all of them. That's where the Liberal Party and National Party's money is coming from. I'll finish this off just for the sake of finishing it off. It's crap. This is why activists need a new approach, starting with their own homes. So get off the fucking streets, you lot, and put PVs on your roof. And moving down the corridors of their body corporates, convincing neighbours to get off grid, on battery, abandon combustion transport as a street-by-street proposition. That sort of leadership could hit our emission targets in a canter. Have you heard that expression before? Hitting emission targets in a canter? Yeah, this is just party political bullshit. And without the need for punitive taxation. Yeah, we don't need a carbon tax. This is the simple fact that it did fucking work over a 6-year period, and since it's been abolished, our emissions have skyrocketed with no sign of ever turning back. Did it work? Yeah, my oath it worked. If inner city Australia cannot convince their own in-body corporate to go carbon neutral, how can they expect Scott Morrison to convince the world? So this is Laming's way of running around and round and round in circles around Morrison, creating a huge cloud of dust in which Morrison can just duck down and slip out. No, don't work. That is why Australia needs an inclusive national spirit based on street, suburb and regional targets, independent of squabbling with doubters or politicians. So what is this prick? Is he a denier or is he down on deniers? I mean, he's a windsock, that's what he is. He blows whichever way the wind decides to go. Personal emission reductions above 26% are remarkably achievable. I know, I've done it. There's 11 panels on the roof of this place. I pay next to fucking nothing for power. If the solution is simply hating a Prime Minister for a drought and the bushfires that followed, then it is a surefire sign that we are missing something. Most likely, a full-length mirror. Have you ever heard such bullshit in all your life? And that was sent to me via Facebook Messenger by Andrew Laming. To this day, I still cannot fathom why. He values my opinion, apparently. Yeah, bullshit he does. The man has a second agenda. I'm not interested in his second agenda. Bottom line is I can't stand him and he knows it. But that was sent to me by the federal member from Bowman, Andrew Laming. Now, it's time for the pièce de résistance. It wouldn't be Australia Day if I didn't do this. I love it.